The human spacecraft drifted quietly toward the orbiting station, a massive structure that shimmered with silver and blue lights against the dark void of space. Jack felt a mix of awe and apprehension as he stared at the station through the viewport. It was unlike anything he had ever seen: towering spires, intricate patterns that seemed to twist in impossible directions, and energy conduits glowing faintly along every surface. The station was alive in its own way, humming with power and purpose. Approaching Docking Bay 7, the ship's AI announced in a calm, mechanical voice. Jack took a deep breath and adjusted his suit. He had been chosen for this mission because humans were thought to bring a different kind of thinking, a kind of creativity and unpredictability that even the most advanced alien civilizations found curious. He had trained for months to work alongside the alien species known as the Lithurians, but no training could have prepared him for the overwhelming sense of being completely out of place. As the docking clamps engaged with a soft metallic click, the bay doors opened, revealing a corridor bathed in soft, white light. Jack stepped out cautiously, his boots making a faint echo on the smooth floor. The corridor stretched farther than he could see, lined with panels of glowing symbols that pulsed rhythmically. Engineers and technicians moved about with precision, their movements fluid and almost musical. Every one of them was alien, their tall, luminous bodies shimmering faintly in the light. They had elongated limbs, translucent skin that reflected faint colors, and eyes that glowed softly like twin moons. Jack felt like he had walked into a living painting. "Welcome, human," a calm voice said, breaking through his thoughts. He turned toward the sound and saw her. Lyra. She was a Lithurian engineer, younger than most of her kind but already known for her innovative designs. Her glow was brighter than the others, and her movements were slower, deliberate, and almost playful. Unlike her colleagues, who seemed entirely focused on their work, Lyra's gaze was fixed on Jack, studying him with quiet intensity. Jack offered a small, cautious smile. "Hello. I'm Jack. I'm here to study your ship designs." Lyra inclined her head slightly. "And I am Lyra. I will accompany you. You will see our work and I will observe your methods." There was a strange undertone in her voice, something more curious than formal. Jack couldn't place it at first. It was not hostility, nor was it friendliness in the way he knew it. It was interest. The tour began. Jack followed Lyra through vast halls filled with machinery that bent and curved in impossible ways. Ships under construction floated in midair, their hulls smooth and elegant, shimmering with energy fields that seemed to hum in time with the station itself. Jack tried to take it all in, his mind struggling to comprehend the scale and complexity. He noted how every Lithurian moved with precision, adjusting components without hesitation, making calculations with gestures that sent holographic readouts spinning in the air. Lyra watched him the whole time. She noticed the small things: the way he tilted his head when he saw an unfamiliar design, how his hands twitched slightly when he wanted to touch a tool, and the way his eyes darted rapidly between different components. She could sense his curiosity, but more importantly, she could sense his adaptability. Humans were unpredictable, yet clever. That intrigued her. At one point, they reached a section of the station where new ship engines were being tested. A human would normally be cautious, hesitant even, because the machinery radiated a kind of energy Jack had never felt before. The other Lithurians hovered around the engines with calm, controlled gestures, seemingly unaffected by the power. Jack, however, took a careful step forward, scanning the machinery with a mix of caution and curiosity. He asked questions, suggested ideas, and even corrected a minor alignment error that had gone unnoticed. Lyra's eyes widened slightly behind her translucent visor. No Lithurian had ever made that adjustment. She had expected humans to be clumsy, perhaps too fragile or too rigid in their methods. But here was Jack, thinking quickly, adjusting without fear, and proving her assumptions wrong. After the tour, Lyra led Jack to a quieter chamber. The walls were lined with screens showing simulations, schematics, and complex equations. This was where she designed experimental tests for the station's systems. Normally, only Lithurians with decades of experience would enter this room, but she wanted Jack to see it, not as a tour, but as the first step in a subtle experiment. "Here we test ideas," she said softly, her glow flickering as she gestured toward a simulation on the central screen. "Not all tests are dangerous, but some may be difficult." Jack leaned in, intrigued. "Difficult how?" Lyra smiled faintly. "You will see." Without further explanation, she activated the simulation. Immediately, a holographic engine room appeared around them. Alarms blared, lights flashed, and a deep vibration pulsed through the floor. Jack's first instinct was to step back, but he steadied himself. The simulation was chaotic, unpredictable. Parts of the engine were overheating and a pressure vent threatened to explode. He glanced at Lyra, unsure what to do. She watched silently, her hands clasped, as if daring him to act. Jack took a deep breath and assessed the situation. Unlike the Lithurians, who relied on strict protocols, he relied on instinct, creativity, and logic combined. He grabbed a tool floating nearby, redirected the energy flow using an improvised connection, and stabilized the system. The alarm ceased. Lights returned to normal. Lyra's eyes glimmered brighter than before. She had expected him to fail or hesitate, but he had not only managed to solve the problem, he had done it in a way no Lithurian would have considered. She realized that human ingenuity was not about following patterns, it was about improvisation and intuition. "You did it," she said softly. Her voice was filled with awe. Jack looked at her, panting slightly, unsure if he had passed some unknown test. I think so," he replied, feeling a mix of relief and pride, "though I have no idea what I was supposed to do." "That is the point," Lyra said. Her gaze lingered on him for a moment longer than necessary. "Humans often succeed without knowing the rules. It is remarkable." From that moment, Lyra began to see Jack as more than a visitor. She began to design subtle challenges for him, simulations, mechanical puzzles, and environmental tests that would reveal his capabilities without endangering him. For the rest of the day, Jack navigated zero-gravity corridors, adjusted unstable power conduits, and repaired minor malfunctions that even experienced Lithurians struggled with. With each success, Lyra's admiration grew, though she never revealed her true intentions. Jack, on the other hand, began noticing unusual patterns. Sometimes doors opened or closed as if guiding him. Certain panels displayed hints, almost as if someone had anticipated his actions. He began to suspect that Lyra was observing him more than necessary, but he did not know why. Instead of feeling uneasy, he felt challenged. He enjoyed the tests, even if he didn't fully understand them, and he began looking forward to the next challenge. During a brief break, they floated in a chamber overlooking the planet below. The view was breathtaking: swirling storms, deep oceans, and towering mountain ranges illuminated by distant lightning strikes. Jack was silent for a moment, overwhelmed by the beauty. Lyra watched him quietly, a small smile playing across her features. She had seen many beings on her station, but none had reacted to the view like a human did. There was wonder, curiosity, and even fear, all mixed together in a way that was deeply moving. "You humans are different," Lyra said finally. Her voice was almost a whisper, but Jack heard it clearly. "You do not merely observe, you feel, you imagine, you adapt." Jack turned toward her. "Different in a good way, I hope." Lyra's smile widened, though it was still faint. "Yes, very good." As the day ended, Jack was assigned quarters within the station. They were simple but comfortable, with a window that framed the swirling storms of the planet below. He lay on the bed, staring at the alien patterns on the walls, trying to process everything he had seen. Lyra's tests, though subtle, had pushed him to think in ways he never had before. And somewhere in the back of his mind, he felt a spark of curiosity about her, why she seemed so interested in him, and what her true motives might be. Meanwhile, Lyra returned to her lab. She floated in the center of the room, surrounded by holographic displays and engineering schematics. She reviewed Jack's actions, noting every detail: how he reacted under pressure, how he solved problems, how he adapted to unfamiliar situations. She compared his methods to those of Lithurians and smiled. Humans were not superior in raw intelligence or speed, but they were alive in a way her species had forgotten. They improvised, they created, they endured. Her interest in Jack was no longer merely professional. She wanted to see how far a human could go in her world, how they would respond to challenges that her own kind would consider impossible. She had no doubt that he could surprise her further. In fact, she hoped he would. The first day ended quietly. The station continued to hum with activity, unaware of the small experiment taking place. Jack slept fitfully, dreaming of shifting corridors and glowing machines, while Lyra planned the next series of tests, her thoughts a mix of curiosity, admiration, and a strange sense of excitement. Somewhere in the heart of the station, a human and a Lithurian were beginning a connection that would change both their worlds. The next morning, Jack woke to the soft hum of the station's energy systems. Light filtered through the translucent walls of his quarters, casting patterns that danced across the floor. The previous day's events were still fresh in his mind: the strange feeling of being observed, the subtle challenges, and the overwhelming beauty of Lithurian technology. He felt both eager and uneasy, not knowing what the day would bring. A soft chime signaled a message from the station's AI. "Your guide awaits in the experimental wing." Jack rose, adjusted his suit, and moved through the corridors, his boots making faint echoes in the otherwise silent halls. The corridors seemed to stretch endlessly, filled with floating platforms, glowing panels, and mechanical arms that adjusted themselves automatically. Even after a full day of touring, he still felt as if he were walking through a world far beyond human understanding. Lyra was waiting for him at the entrance to the experimental wing. Her glow was faintly brighter than usual, and her eyes, those luminous twin moons, seemed to flicker with anticipation. "Good morning, human," she said, her voice calm but carrying an energy that made Jack tense slightly. "Today, you will face more complex challenges." "Are you ready?" Jack smiled nervously. "As ready as I'll ever be." She nodded and led him into a vast chamber. The room was filled with holographic projections, floating machinery, and walls that displayed endless streams of data. The air thrummed with energy, and Jack could feel a low vibration through the floor. "We will test your adaptability," Lyra explained. "Your species survives because you can think differently. I want to see how far that goes." The first challenge appeared immediately. A section of the chamber transformed into a zero-gravity maze, walls shifting unpredictably and pathways forming and disappearing at random. Jack felt his stomach tighten. Zero gravity was disorienting, but he had trained for similar situations on the spacecraft. Still, this maze was different. It moved, changed, and seemed almost alive. He took a deep breath and began. He floated through the shifting corridors, carefully analyzing patterns, predicting the wall's movements, and using small pushes to change direction. He adjusted his body in mid-air, flipping, spinning, and occasionally letting himself glide with the momentum. Lyra watched silently, her glow pulsing slightly with every maneuver he made. After several tense minutes, Jack reached the center of the maze. He had adapted quickly, using both instinct and careful observation. Lyra's eyes gleamed with quiet satisfaction. "Very good," she said softly. "You understand space in ways my species rarely considers. You do not follow rules, you create your own." Jack floated down onto a platform. "Thanks, I think." He wiped sweat from his brow, though in zero gravity it fell slowly. "I don't even know what I just did differently." Lyra's smile was faint. That is the point. You act without knowing the rules, yet you succeed. That is human ingenuity. The next test came immediately. The room shifted again, this time into a simulated engine bay. Alarms blared, lights flashed, and conduits sparked. Lyra stepped back, observing as Jack assessed the situation. The engine systems were unstable, and the simulated environment was dangerous. Jack hesitated for only a moment. He scanned the machinery, recognized patterns, and improvised solutions using the tools floating around him. He connected energy conduits in ways that no Lithurian would have considered, rerouted power flows, and stabilized critical systems. Sparks flew, panels blinked, and the alarm ceased. The simulation dissolved, leaving Jack standing in the quiet room, breathing heavily. Lyra's eyes widened. You adapted faster than any Lithurian I have ever seen in training. Your mind does not simply follow logic, it finds solutions my species cannot predict. Jack laughed nervously. I'm just thinking as I go. Lyra inclined her head. That is why you are valuable. Your kind survives where predictability fails. As the day progressed, the challenges increased. Lyra introduced environmental tests that simulated extreme temperatures, sudden depressurization, and complex navigation scenarios. Jack had to improvise constantly, relying on both his training and his intuition. Every time he succeeded, Lyra made small adjustments to the next challenge, pushing him further while keeping him safe. During a break, Jack floated in a chamber overlooking the station's energy core. The view was mesmerizing. Streams of raw energy arced between conduits, pulsing with life. He felt a strange mix of fear and awe, understanding for the first time how fragile yet resilient this station truly was. Lyra approached quietly. You are different, she said softly. Most beings would panic at this view. You adapt. You analyze. You endure. Jack smiled, though he felt self-conscious. I guess humans just figure things out when there's no choice. Lyra's glow pulsed in agreement. Yes, and that is why I study you. Your species reminds me of something my own kind has forgotten. Creativity, improvisation, unpredictability, these are rare qualities. The afternoon brought the most complex test yet. Lyra initiated a simulated crisis where a portion of the station's energy grid overloaded. The lights flickered violently, alarms blared, and the floor shook. Jack instinctively sprang into action, assessing the problem. The Lithurians in the simulation panicked slightly, unable to resolve the issue quickly. Jack moved calmly, redirecting power flows, using makeshift connections and improvising cooling measures. Lyra watched in astonishment as he stabilized the grid. His methods were unconventional, combining human intuition with rapid problem-solving. The simulation ended, and the room returned to normal. Jack was panting, sweat clinging to his brow despite the controlled environment. You exceeded expectations, Lyra said softly. Her eyes glowed brighter than ever. You understand systems intuitively. You think in ways my species cannot. Jack shook his head, incredulous. I was just trying to survive, I guess. Lyra's expression softened. That is the essence of your species. Survival forces creativity. You do not merely follow protocols, you adapt. That is why I am studying you. That is why I am testing you. Jack looked at her, finally realizing that these challenges were not random. Lyra had been observing him carefully, crafting situations to measure his adaptability, creativity, and resilience. So, all of this was a test, he asked, a mix of awe and amusement in his voice. Lyra inclined her head. Yes, a test, yes, but also a study. You are remarkable. I have never seen a being respond to unpredictability as you do. My species builds perfect ships, predictable systems, flawless designs. But your mind, it is not predictable. It is alive. Jack laughed softly, shaking his head. I never thought humans would impress aliens. Least of all engineers like you. Lyra's glow flickered with amusement. You are not merely impressive. You are inspiring. I see potential, possibilities my species never considered. You think in ways that could change how we approach our work." By evening, Jack was exhausted but exhilarated. The tests had pushed him to his limits, yet he felt a strange sense of pride. Lyra escorted him to a quiet observation deck overlooking the planet below. Storms raged across the surface, lightning illuminating jagged mountains and deep oceans. The view was both terrifying and beautiful. "You humans are brave," Lyra said softly. "Most beings would remain in safety. You venture, you endure, you improvise. That is why I am curious. That is why I want to learn from you." Jack turned to her, studying her carefully. "And you're teaching me too, aren't you?" Lyra's smile was faint but genuine. "Perhaps, but my lessons are subtle. My goal is to see what your mind can do without instruction. That is the true test." They sat in silence for a while, watching the storms, each lost in their own thoughts. Jack considered the challenges he had faced, the improvisations he had made, and the strange admiration in Lyra's eyes. Lyra considered the human before her, the unique combination of intuition, courage, and adaptability, and the possibilities it represented for her species. Later, as Jack rested in his quarters, he thought about the station and the alien species he had encountered. Lyra's tests were not merely challenges. They were lessons in understanding, in seeing the value of human ingenuity in a world dominated by perfection and precision. He felt a strange sense of connection with her, as if she were slowly revealing a world that only humans could navigate in their own way. Lyra returned to her lab, reviewing the data she had collected. She analyzed Jack's decisions, his improvisations, and the way he adapted under pressure. Each moment confirmed her belief. Humans were remarkable not because they were stronger or faster, but because they could think differently. They could survive, innovate, and overcome where perfect logic might fail. As the station quieted for the night, both human and Lithurian considered the day. Jack's mind was still racing with possibilities, while Lyra's was filled with curiosity and plans for further tests. Somewhere in the heart of the station, a bond was forming, a connection between unpredictability and precision, between creativity and technology, between two species that could learn from one another in ways neither had expected. Jack drifted into sleep, dreaming of shifting corridors, floating machinery, and a glowing figure watching him with interest. Lyra, in her lab, gazed at his performance records, a faint smile on her lips, already imagining the challenges of the next day. The human had proven himself adaptable, clever, and resilient, but Lyra suspected that the greatest tests were still to come. The station hummed with life, oblivious to the subtle experiment unfolding within its walls. For the first time, human ingenuity was being measured against the precision of the Lithurians, and for the first time, it seemed possible that two very different worlds could learn from one another, not through conflict or coercion, but through curiosity, respect, and the quiet thrill of discovery. The following morning, Jack awoke to the soft hum of the station, the same rhythm that had become almost comforting after 2 days of intense tests. His muscles ached from zero-gravity maneuvers, and his mind buzzed with thoughts of what Lyra might have planned next. He had passed every challenge she had set, sometimes barely, often in ways she could hardly have predicted. There was an excitement in the unknown, a thrill in discovery, and Jack found himself wanting more. When he entered the experimental wing, Lyra was already there, her glow calm and steady, yet brighter than ever. "Today," she said, "you will face the final test. It is not just a challenge, it is a question of cooperation, intuition, and creativity combined. Are you prepared?" Jack nodded, though he was unsure what to expect. "I'll do my best." Lyra led him into a chamber unlike any they had been in before. The walls shifted fluidly, with holographic projections stretching across the floor and ceiling. At the center of the room hovered a partially constructed ship. Its design was elegant, but unlike the ships Jack had seen before, it seemed incomplete, almost experimental. Panels floated around it in midair, energy streams blinked in unpredictable patterns, and components shifted subtly as if alive. "This ship is different," Lyra explained. "It is not yet complete. My species can build flawless vessels, but perfection is predictable. I want to see what a human can contribute. Your kind thrives in unpredictability. Can you complete what we cannot?" Jack studied the ship carefully. He could see the glowing panels indicating energy flows, the missing sections of the hull, and the floating components that seemed to resist order. It was unlike any engineering problem he had faced, but instinct took over. He approached a control panel, analyzed the energy streams, and began experimenting, carefully connecting components in ways that were unconventional but logical in his own mind. Lyra observed silently, fascinated. Each adjustment Jack made was precise yet unorthodox. He combined intuition with observation, improvising where the Lithurian designs had gaps. Slowly, the ship began to stabilize, glowing more evenly as its systems integrated. Jack floated from one end to the other, making small adjustments, rerouting energy and connecting panels. The floating components began to align, responding to his commands in ways that surprised even him. "You think differently," Lyra said softly, her eyes following his every move. "You adapt to situations without rules, and you create solutions where none seem possible. This is why humans survive. This is why your kind fascinates me." Jack smiled, though he was focused on the task. "I guess humans are good at figuring things out when nothing is perfect. We make do with what we have." Lyra's glow pulsed with quiet admiration. "Yes. And now I want to see how we can combine our strengths, your ingenuity and our precision. Perhaps together we can build something extraordinary." As Jack worked, Lyra began giving subtle guidance. She did not dictate, did not intervene directly, but provided hints in the form of shifting energy patterns, minor adjustments to floating components, and soft auditory signals. Jack responded instinctively, feeling the station's energy flow around him. He realized he was not just repairing or building, he was collaborating, merging human intuition with alien technology. Hours passed. Jack's concentration never wavered. Sweat formed on his brow despite the controlled environment, and his suit became slightly warm from constant movement. Yet he felt alive, challenged, and exhilarated. The ship systems responded in real time to his improvisation, energy flows stabilizing, components aligning, and the vessel beginning to take its intended form. Lyra watched closely. "This is remarkable," she whispered. "No Lithurian could have done this alone. Only a human mind could see the patterns, the gaps, the possibilities, and act in time. You have proven what I suspected. Humans are unpredictable, resilient, and innovative, and in partnership, we can achieve what neither species could alone." Finally, the ship glowed fully, its systems integrated perfectly, energy streams balanced, and floating components locked into place. Jack floated back, exhausted but proud. He turned to Lyra, unsure what to say. She smiled, her glow warm and steady. "You have done more than complete a challenge," she said. "You have shown that humans and Lithurians together can create beyond what our species alone could imagine. You have inspired me and perhaps the station itself." Jack laughed softly. "I didn't do it alone." "You guided me," Lyra shook her head. "No, I only provided subtle cues. The decisions, the improvisation, the problem-solving, all yours. My species builds perfection, but perfection is predictable. You brought life to it. That is why I wanted to test something human." Jack looked at the ship, floating before them like a living creation. It was unlike any vessel he had ever seen, combining Lithurian elegance with human ingenuity. He realized that he had participated in something extraordinary, something that would change the way Lithurians designed ships forever. The day was not yet over. Lyra invited Jack to pilot the vessel in a controlled simulation. "See how it responds," she said. Your decisions, your intuition, it is now part of this ship. Jack hesitated briefly, then nodded. He floated to the cockpit, a sleek chamber filled with controls, holographic displays, and subtle energy interfaces. As he engaged the systems, the ship responded immediately to his thoughts and movements, intuitive yet precise. Lyra observed from the control room, her glow reflecting pride and fascination. The simulation began. The ship moved through complex courses, navigating asteroid fields, energy storms, and fluctuating gravitational zones. Jack relied on instinct and improvisation, adjusting in real time to unexpected hazards. The vessel responded flawlessly, blending human unpredictability with Lithurian engineering. Every maneuver, every decision, every adjustment was a testament to what two species could achieve together. Hours later, the simulation ended. Jack floated out of the cockpit, exhausted but exhilarated. Lyra approached him slowly, her glow soft and steady. "You have done more than I imagined," she said. "You have proven that humans are not just survivors but innovators, creators, and partners." Jack smiled faintly. "I never thought I'd be building a ship with aliens, let alone impressing one of your engineers." Lyra laughed softly, a sound like a gentle ripple of energy. "You have done more than impress me. You have changed how I see your species. I have studied humans for years, but you embody the qualities I admire most: courage, adaptability, and imagination. You bring life to what my species views as perfection." As the day ended, the station's lights dimmed slightly and the corridors grew quiet. Jack returned to his quarters, reflecting on the past 3 days. He had been tested, challenged, and pushed to his limits, yet he had learned and grown in ways he could not have imagined. Lyra's subtle guidance had been invaluable, but it was his own ingenuity that had made the difference. Meanwhile, Lyra remained in the lab, reviewing the data one last time. She observed Jack's decisions, noted his improvisations, and considered the implications for her species. Humans were not merely fragile beings. They were unpredictable, adaptive, and creative in ways Lithurians could not replicate. And when paired with Lithurian technology, they could achieve greatness. The next morning, Lyra invited Jack to join her in a final discussion. They sat overlooking the planet below, storms raging in the distance, lightning illuminating jagged mountains and deep oceans. The view was breathtaking, and the quiet hum of the station added a sense of serenity. "You have proven what I suspected," Lyra said. "Humans are capable of more than my species realized. Your creativity, your problem-solving, your ability to adapt, these are qualities we can learn from. And now, we can build together." Jack nodded, a sense of pride and humility washing over him. "I never imagined I'd get this opportunity. It's incredible," Lyra smiled. "It is not just incredible, it is the beginning of a partnership. Your species has taught me that perfection is not the ultimate goal. Adaptability, intuition, and creativity are just as valuable. Together, we can create ships, systems, and technologies that neither of our species could achieve alone." Jack looked at her, understanding the weight of her words. For the first time, he realized that his human ingenuity had not only passed Lyra's tests, but had also earned her respect and trust. It was a rare feeling, one that went beyond accomplishment. It was the recognition of potential, the spark of collaboration between two very different species. In the weeks that followed, Jack and Lyra worked side by side, refining the experimental ship, testing its capabilities, and integrating human improvisation with Lithurian precision. They faced new challenges, but together they overcame each one, their partnership growing stronger with every success. Other Lithurians observed their work with curiosity, slowly realizing the value of human adaptability and intuition. By the time Jack prepared to return to his spacecraft, the ship they had built together stood ready, a testament to what could be achieved when two species combined their strengths. Lyra approached him one last time, her glow soft but steady. Your species has changed my perspective, she said. You have shown me that life is not about flawless design, but about ingenuity, courage, and adaptation. You have inspired me and my people, and for that I am grateful. Jack smiled, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment. I didn't just come here to study your technology. I think I learned more than I expected, and I hope my work will continue to help your species. Lyra's eyes glimmered. It will. Humans and Lithurians together can achieve what neither could alone. That is the true test, and you have passed it with distinction. As Jack boarded his spacecraft, he glanced back at the station, at Lyra standing in the observation deck, her glow a steady reminder of curiosity, admiration, and partnership. He realized that the experience had changed him too, not just in skill, but in perspective. Humans were capable of extraordinary things when given the chance, and this mission had proven it. The spacecraft detached from the station, drifting into space as Jack looked out at the Lithurian structure one last time. He felt a sense of pride, accomplishment, and connection, not just to Lyra, but to the idea that humans, though fragile in body, were strong in mind, adaptable, and capable of shaping the universe in ways no one had anticipated. Lyra watched the departing ship, her thoughts lingering on the human who had defied expectations and inspired change. She had begun with curiosity, moved to testing, and ended with respect. In the vastness of space, she had discovered that human ingenuity was not just useful, it was extraordinary. And as the stars stretched endlessly before them, both human and Lithurian understood something profound. The future was not defined by one species alone, but by the collaboration of many, guided by curiosity, creativity, and the courage to face the unknown. Jack's journey had begun as a test. It had ended as a partnership, one that would shape the path of both humanity and the Lithurians for generations to come. And in that quiet, infinite space, a human and an alien engineer had proven that curiosity, adaptability, and the courage to try could build more than ships. They could build bridges between worlds.